Good afternoon to everyone. Our meeting is now being recorded, which is really nice that we're able to record it.
Sorry, Rabbi. They're having issues with the Cox, so it's going to go back and forth.
So what if they unplug it and start it?
No, they're working with Cox.
Oh, okay. I'm connected to my mobile hotspot. I hope it'll work in the kitchen. Or maybe they'll solve it by then. Yeah, well, it worked so nicely before. Okay, so we took a field trip today. Okay. What? No, this is the field trip. Okay. We have two parts to our field trips. First, we're going to start here. And then after we are accustomed and regular to our new place, we're going to move to our next site, which is the kitchen of a congregation at Tamid. And we're going to continue with our article about the kosher kitchen. So we're going to sort of like study the things and then in theory and then look at more in practice how it works. Okay, so we're on page 324 in our article. And we're at the top where it says the kosher kitchen. To maintain the separation of meat and dairy during cooking, the kosher kitchen must have at least two sets of utensils, one for meat and another for dairy foods. This requirement includes dishes, flatware, pots, pans, and all other utensils used in preparation, serving, or eating food. Now, if we remember the classes that we took, today's our 8th class on kashrut. So when we looked at the Bible, it did not say you have to have two sets of dishes, meat and dairy, pots and pans. All it says is do not boil, the milk of a kid in his mother's, in the calf with the mother's milk. And that's all it said. So we see an expansion here of the biblical law and how it sort of like evolves all the way till having, two separate kinds of dishes as well. It doesn't mean that we're not supposed to do it, but it means that the significance or the halachic status of it is not the same like the one in the Torah. Okay, that's sort of like the way we see the evolving way of halacha. And sometimes a lot of these things, start as practices and traditions, and then they become halacha. They become law. Okay, they're sort of like codified because of the way the rabbis interpret things more and more. Okay, whose phone is that over there? Okay. Yeah, not appropriate for the kosher kitchen. Okay, I continue in the article. But basically what we're seeing here also is why do we have two sets of utensils, one for meat and another for dairy? Because we want to make sure they don't get mixed. Okay, we want to keep that separation. So in order to avoid mistakes from happening. Okay, and for that, thing. So it's like became very clear that in traditional homes, you have two sets of everything. Many homes will have at least some additional utensils for preparing parve foods, especially baked goods. Okay, using only parve utensils for preparation and storage makes it easier to assure the continued neutral nature of the parve foods. Okay, so now we have an added element here, which is the parve foods. If you have, if you're making something that you want to use it for a meat meal and also for a dairy meal later on, so if you use the meat utensils, it would make it in the realm of meat. It's more appropriate to use that in a meat dinner. you can't use it afterwards in a dairy dinner, so you would want to use parve utensils. So some people are also careful about that. It's like on a higher level of observance in that regard. And then the requirement to have two sets of utensils has to do with the materials from which the items are made. And this is an important part, which we'll talk about in a second. Although many of the materials from which these utensils are made will seem impermeable to most observers, the rabbis of ancient times felt sure that minuscule amounts of food could become absorbed into dishes or utensils made of even marginally porous materials. As a result, it became part of standard kashrut observance to maintain two separate sets of dishes, utensils, and pots and pans for cooking and serving. Because one would ask, like, if I have like a clean dish, what would be really the problem for using it for meat and for dairy? Okay, if I cleaned it, I ate like a dairy meal, I would clean it, and then I would have a meat meal on it. Okay, so that's a very good question to ask. The reason behind that we have two separate dishes is because of the notion that the actual dishes absorb some of the cooked items that were in it. And if you've been to museums around the world and you've seen sort of like the pottery that they used to have to cook in food, even if they had like a metal pot, okay, not unlike our metal pots today that are kind of like very sturdy, and if something is like coated with emile and all these things that it probably nothing absorbs. But even then, something absorbs in. So in the ancient times, you would really see things would absorb, like fats would absorb into the pots, into the utensils that people would use. It was absorbed to the extent that you would even if you would, and they didn't have soap the way that we do in detergents. Okay, maybe they would wash it off with some dirt and water. So when you would pick up a dish like that, you would either see or feel, or you would like cook something else in it, and you would taste the thing that was cooked in it before. Okay, I don't know, maybe in some of you even experienced that in your homes growing up.
Rabbi, maybe in a more general sense, to what extent would the rabbis modify their opinions based on science? If you look at, say, the 19th century, when germ theory really came about, it used to be it really changed the way everybody looked at it.
Well, the question that you asked about, do we look into science when we make some of these decisions, is actually very interesting, because today they're making some experiments in some of the more modern yeshivas, and they're taking actually pots that are like aluminum pots, like how's it called, that they're so they're made so well that it doesn't observe anything because of the coating it has, etc. I forgot the exact name. But some of these pots are really, it's very clear that they're done. So they cook something in it, and they weigh it before and after, okay? And they seem to have very, very few particles that are absorbed into it, as opposed to if you would take more like a stone pot, okay, from like the way it used to be done, and that would really absorb like grams, much more significant amounts of food. And then you're concerned that once you cook something, I would cook like a meat dish, and now I would wash it, but then I would cook a milk dish. Some of the particles would go and mix with the new dish that's inside it, would make it non-kosher because of that new mixture. Okay, and if you're doing that to begin with, it's problematic. But then the science comes, as to your question, Larry, and says, but that amount is probably less than 1 of 60, okay, which is sort of like the Jewish formula of how to know how can you annul something that is not kosher. Okay, so maybe it could be okay, but then the whole thing with the 1 of 60, which we'll see in a minute, is only b'diavad, is only after fact. You can't to begin with decide I'm going to cook a big pot of meat and just a huge pot and just add 1 of 60 milk to it. If you do that deliberately, it makes it non-kosher and you cannot eat it. It's only if it happens by mistake. So it still leaves that that question up in the air. But in theory, if science would be able to develop a pot and pan that does not absorb anything at all, and when you clean it, it's clear it didn't absorb anything, in theory, that could be used afterwards for a different dish, like a dairy to okay?
That the ice machine?
Yeah. I don't know what's going on today. They're very active in the kitchen. Yeah.
Why even bother with this measurement? Why bother?
Well, sometimes, well, first of all, you want to know because the whole reasoning is, I mean, the question was, why bother in weighing and measuring and all that? First of all, in a theoretical level, it's interesting to know because if you create today a dish or like silverware, okay, in the past, you would really use silverware that would be that would have absorbed. You would cook with like you would stir the milk pot, like you would look at that thing, it's like it absorbs, you would see it would change the color, like you would see it, it's like becomes dairy. Okay, so it's very clear that if you take that milk, the thing that you stir with, and then you wash it, but then you use it now for a meat dish, it's very clear that there are going to be milk particles that would go. But in today's technology, maybe that part that doesn't happen anymore. Maybe nothing is absorbed into that part, and then you could use the same one if you use soap for it, for example, and if you don't wait, and if you don't use it like within 24 hours, which is sort of like the halachic definition for how long something needs to rest and not be used in order so you could you could then use it for something else, like for a different like if it was meat, so it could be converted to dairy.
That's kind of interesting because that varies from the halachic definition in terms of food, 1, 3, or 6 hours.
Yeah, no, I know that's a good question. It's not the same like with food, like with 6 hours that you wait between dairy and meat, and some wait just 1 hour, as we learned. No, this has to do. We're gonna get to that in a minute. I don't want to throw too many concepts in one minute. Okay, so let's continue. But basically what they were saying here is that the rabbis of ancient times felt sure that minuscule amounts of food could become absorbed into dishes, utensils, and as a result, it became part of standard kashrut observers to maintain 2 separate sets of dishes, utensils, and pots and pans for cooking and serving. I just want to stress that with serving, it's even more once removed because you're not cooking, you're just serving on it. So in theory, if I'm serving something cold on a dish, I'm serving like salami and it's cold, and then I'm washing that dish and I use it for cheese, okay? It's not the same like if I'm going to put like a boiling dish of meat on that plate and then going to be serving a boiling dish of dairy on it. It's not the same category, okay? Because as we remember, the prohibition is on cooking together. Again, these are more theoretical things because people keep it separate, but keep in mind that in a certain situation, if you only have one plate and you're serving something cold and then you're serving something else cold, meat cold and now dairy cold, in theory, you could do that, okay, in a way. To help keep things organized on the third paragraph, it is imperative to choose patterns for flatware, dishes, and cookware different enough from one another to be easily distinguished. This is a big thing in a Jewish kitchen. It's like, don't buy the same, plates or the same flatware for, because you want to make sure that you don't mix it all the time. While correcting mistakes is almost always possible, choosing patterns that do not look alike help avoid confusion. It is best to choose pots and pans made by different manufacturers for meat and dairy use, thereby dramatically increasing the visible difference between the sets. Okay, and in order to maintain the proper level of separation, utensils should also be stored separately. So having separate and distinct cabinets and drawers is the best way to ensure that items are not used for the wrong foods. Okay, so having a big kitchen is also kind of like very helpful. If you have a kosher home, any of you that have been to my house and saw that small kitchen, so I have to maximize that place. It's challenging, okay, but it still could be done even in that size kitchen. And I saw people even in smaller kitchen doing it. In the case of items that by their nature will be hard to distinguish from one another, such as cookie sheets or cutting boards, it is best to mark items clearly as being either dairy, meat, or parve. Marking with paint, etching, or using colored adhesive tags are all commonly accepted ways of marking utensils. If you go to any kosher supermarket, they also sell stickers. Like blue stickers is for dairy, red is for meat, and green is for parve, okay? That's like universal Jewish colors. I don't know when it came about to be like that. It doesn't have to be. It could be red for dairy, but you will confuse your guests if you do that, okay? And I also have a set of these markers that are like paint markers. So I put that on the pots and pans so, it doesn't come off easily when I mark them. And I have them in 3 colors. I ordered them on Amazon and they work, wonderfully. There's what? There are, oh my God, there's so many kosher things on Amazon. I'm always shocked. I buy like my Shabbat candles on Amazon. Yeah, I just got a new kettle for hot water on Amazon. Just arrived yesterday. It's unbelievable. Yeah, very Jewish Amazon. Someone told me they just bought 50 of the yellow ribbon pins on Amazon. She might bring some tonight for the event. Yeah, for $20. So they have everything on Amazon.
$8.99. I bought a bottle of $1 spices.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
So much to choose from.
There's no need to have 2 sets of drinking glasses. However, why? This is very important. I want you to hear this about glasses. Because of its nature, glass is not deemed capable of absorbing even minuscule amounts of food, and so cannot become either meat or dairy. Okay? And this is from the Shulchan Aruch, like the main Jewish codex from the 16th century that is telling us the rabbis decided already before, glass does not absorb. Even the rabbis of the Talmud, by the way, I think at the times of the Talmud, glass did absorb something. Today, it's very clear that glass doesn't absorb anything. So you can use today glass for both dishes. You can even use it, some would say, even for cooking, okay? I want to say something that surprised me in this article because it's a conservative movement, but the writer is more traditional. Okay. So there's some things that I do that he prohibits, okay, which I know are okay, which are more like the Sephardi way. In the Sephardi tradition, they use glass for everything, even like the pans for the oven, they use for meat. They wash it, of course, they wash it very well, but then they would use it for dairy as well.
How long have they been using, doing that?
Uh,
Long time?
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, the Sephardic thing.
oh yeah. They've always been doing it. Yeah.
Question though, even though glass itself may not absorb glass cracking. Therefore, certain amount of something of dairy may get into the glass or of meat and not get scrubbed out.
Right. So what you're saying is that glass gets scratches and therefore absorbs parts that can come out is a very good point, and it means you're Ashkenazi. Okay. Because that's really what the Ashkenazi rabbis are saying, that this thing happens to glass and then you can't kosher it. But if the Sephardi would answer you and say that could be, but it doesn't absorb. Like if it's like it doesn't absorb. It's like a stain. It's like it could be a stain. It could be something like that. But it's something like, let's say it doesn't come out. It doesn't come out. So it's like maybe it changed, but that doesn't make it not kosher in that
Okay, I
sense.
understand that because if you're looking at stoneware, stoneware that gets a scratch or a crack in it will absorb that and it's discolored.
Yeah.
See that on old.
Right.
antique dishes. But glass, you don't really see.
Right, exactly. With glass, there's always a way to get it to it and maybe clean it, or and it's easier. So therefore, some Sephardi don't use the glass to cook with. They would only use it for dishes. Okay. And that's basically what I do. I use glass dishes for meat and for dairy, not at the same time.
Are they different colors?
No, I use the same plates. The same plates. I could use the same plate. I would wash it, and then I would use a different plate. So that makes it much easier in my small kitchen. That makes it very easy. Okay, that I don't have to have another set of plates, another set of soup bowls, another set. Okay, he does not approve with that option, but it's a little bit. I'm surprised because it shouldn't just be the Ashkenazi way that is listed in a conservative movement book, right? It should be also available for all Jews. Okay, now things get complicated. If it gets etched and that's harder to clean and get, sometimes they say that's less preferable. They don't encourage that, but we'll see that in a minute. Okay, so therefore, I'm just continuing here on the last paragraph, almost the last paragraph. Therefore, in the middle, therefore, one may, technically speaking, use a single set of glass plates in a kosher home. The predominant custom, however, something happened to the Zoom. It stopped. Do we remember where exactly you lost us?
You were reading the last chapter or something.
About the two sets of glass dishes.
Yes, I heard that part.
Yeah. So basically, what I'm saying is that he's saying that it's okay to use one. Oh, it's back. This is back. We're going to change networks and pray that the Zoom does not leave us. Let's see.
What are their dishes? What are their dishes? No, it was dishes, but.
It's interesting. It says connected, secure. Do you hear us on Zoom?
Yes.
Okay. Very interesting. Okay. Good. Weird. Okay, I hope it will work and we don't have problems. If it does, we'll just, someone maybe text me or call me. Okay, the bottom of page 324, the CJLS has ruled that Corel is considered to be glass. Okay, however, glass used for baking, including Corningware and Pyrex, or for stovetop cooking, such as Visions, is not to be used for both dairy and meat foodstuffs. Again, there are some Sephardi Jews that you do use it, and it is permissible. Plastic containers or utensils should be designated for meat, dairy, or parve use and may not be used interchangeably. Okay. Soft or non-dishwasher safe plastics, such as Tupperware or disposable multi-use plasticware, such as Gladware or Ziploc storage items, should be marked upon use to ensure that they are reused with only the same type of food as originally stored in them. Okay, so plastic as well can be used just in a, you just need to mark it properly. There is, and by the way, there's a big debate in plastic. There's some rabbis that say that plastic is like glass. It doesn't observe, like especially the hard plastic. Okay, so there is a big debate, and some people say that you could use the same, especially if it's cold. If you're like storing cold things in a plastic thing, it's okay to use it in dairy and meat interchange, like just one of them, but you could, after you clean it, you could use it for something else. So there's some rabbis have that opinion about plastic. There's no requirement for a kosher home to have separate stoves, ovens, refrigerators, freezers, or dishwashers. However, care must be taken to prevent the mixing of meat and dairy when using appliances. By the way, we're going to go to the kitchen now, and we're going to see that for the kitchen, it's a little bit different. For a community kitchen, you need to be much more careful, and because there are a lot of people that are coming in. It's not just one person in a household, and that whole assumption is that when you're cooking for a community, you need to be on a higher standard, so it's more inclusive and everyone could feel comfortable in that way, because you don't know who the guests are always, right? Now, it says here, for example, if cooking meat, dairy, or parve items at the same time on a stove, one must take care that food does not splash from one pot to another. The simplest advice is to cook only one kind of food at a time. Because you don't want to have a situation that you're cooking a meat stew and a milk pot and something jumps from one another. That's not good. Okay. Similarly, only one kind of food should be cooked in an oven at any given time. Before switching from one kind of food to another, any spills should be wiped out of the oven. If it is absolutely necessary, though, okay, one may bake meat and dairy foods at the same time, as long as both pans are tightly covered. Okay, you don't want the odors of the milk and the meat mixing if they're in the same oven at the same time. That creates a problem for us. Okay. If that happens, it doesn't make the dishes not kosher, but it would make the upper surface of it problematic. So what you would do is you would cut off like the upper surface of whatever you're making and just, use the bottom part. But the best thing is to tightly cover both of them. A self-cleaning oven may be kosher, like made kosher, by running a complete cleaning cycle. The same rules that apply to regular ovens should be observed when cooking in microwave ovens. Okay, how do you kosher a microwave oven? Is one of the easiest things to do. A microwave oven can be koshered by microwaving a cup of water on high, as discussed in detail below. Okay, so we'll see an extension of that in a minute, but basically you clean the microwave, very well, and then you just boil a cup of water, and it spills all over, and then it's kosher. So it's very easy, like in a workplace, to kosher a microwave. With regard to refrigerators and freezers, as long as food is wrapped carefully and marked clearly, meat, dairy, and par foods may be stored on the same shelves. That's not a problem. Dishwashers present a special dilemma. It would be simplest to have two, but this will rarely be feasible in most homes. In such cases, only meat or dairy dishes should be washed at a time. Okay? In order to use a dishwasher for meat and dairy sequentially, it is recommended to run an empty cycle with detergent between full cycles. The same dish racks may be used for meat and dairy. Okay, so here what they're saying is it's a custom of the Ashkenazi, which is very strict, which you could use the same dishwasher. I mean, very, very strict people might have two dishwashers if they have a big enough kitchen, and some affluent, Haredi, ultra-Orthodox, they have kitchens like that. They have two ovens, two dishwashers, two everything, two microwaves, but usually that's not easy to do. So what you would do is you would do all your meat dishes, you would then run another cycle empty with detergent, and the reason for that is because of the thought that you have dishes in the same dishwasher that are mixing together, and the temperature of the water gets so high that it's like boiling together, and you're like particles from, like the leftovers from the meat dinner are now mixing with the leftovers of the dairy, and they're going into the dishes, and they're making the dishes non-kosher in that regard. Okay? This logic notion is rejected by Sephardi Jews, okay? The Sephardi Jews, which I think makes more common sense, is that these particles that are mixing together with detergent, okay? And the detergent creates a formula that is not edible anymore, okay? And that is sort of like makes it what we talked about last week, which is like ta'am lefgam, which means it gives a bad taste to the dish. You don't want to eat what comes out of, the dishwasher. Let's say if I would stop now the dishwasher in the middle, and I would take that whatever, water mixed with, meat particles and dairy particles and the soap and all of that, that's not something positive that you want to nourish on, okay? So because of that, you are able to have in the same dishwasher meat and dairy dishes, okay? And that's the practice that I do in my home as well, which is the Sephardi practice. You use the same dishwasher for meat and dairy as well. It makes life much, much easier.
Hot water gets so hot that it does, when it dries, the drying cycle, doesn't that kill whatever might be around or?
Well,
bacteria?
that, yeah, some people would say that is like almost like koshering dishes. It's not the traditional way, but some view it in that regard as well. That's a very good point. Yes, sometimes I'm Sephardi and sometimes I'm Ashkenazi.
So, Sephardi,
Yeah, whatever is easier is what I do. Yeah,
Came about with Talmudic or later times, I guess.
yeah.
But so for the Sephardic, do they also have a separate Talmud? I don't know.
Oh, no. That's a good question. All of these decisions are made of because of the debates in the different traditions, but it's all based on what's in the Talmud, and it's all based on these traditions of many years. We're just less aware of them because the Ashkenazi have been so predominant that they have sort of like you know, toned down the Sephardi world. They made them look like you're not serious, you're not proper Jews, you're not as observant as us. You know, they're Haredi, you know, the Ashkenazi ultra-Orthodox come with an ideology that everything that we do is correct and right. And what everyone else is doing is below us. So if you want to be religious and you want to be observant, so, oh, okay, so I'll do a little bit more. I'll do a little bit more. And you always sort of like turn to the right to see how's the person more on the right is like, I want to be like him. So when people lived in the diasporas, so that wasn't a problem. If I was like in Morocco now or in Spain, I would observe my, I would observe my traditions. But now that everyone's now in Israel and integrated, so you can't avoid that. You can't keep your traditions without looking at, oh, they're so much stricter. Maybe if I want to be religious, maybe I need to do what they did. So you ask, and then, you know, and as it's like it's like a natural process that happens. Yeah.
Is there a Sephardic CJLS?
No, but they have some very important rabbis that make the rules. And one of them, like the dishwasher, was done by one of the biggest famous rabbis, which is also, you know, it's also very, he's like very powerful. He was like a chief rabbi and he was a great scholar. So a lot of his rulings were adopted, not by Ashkenazi, but at least people know about it and give it some space, you know, just because he's like a very, yeah.
Difference. Talmud that covers any of the countries.
The what?
Are there any differences between the two Talmuds covering countries?
They're not just differences in the Talmud, in between the Talmuds and keeping kosher. It's like inside the Talmud itself, there are different opinions about keeping kosher. Like glass, some say that glass absorbs particles, and some people say glass does not absorb particles, okay? So then the Ashkenazi would go more with that choice, and the Sephardi would go more with that choice. And these traditions evolved over the years. This is the whole essence of, you know, Jewish traditions and how it came about. Wait, we still need to go to the kitchen. So let's go to the kitchen and see if we could come back, because we're not going to come back again here next week. No, let's go without the paper. Let's just take our laptop with us. And I'll just take my paper. Okay, let's hope the Wi-Fi doesn't turn off. Okay. George, we're coming to the kitchen. And is the community kitchen open?
No. Oh.
Can you open it?
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Rabbi, you did talk about Passover. I have a friend that has an area in her house just for Passover.
Oh, yeah,
with the
people have a
dishwasher
Passover
and the
kitchen.
sink, and she has
Wow.
two dishwashers, and she- In
Yeah.
her kitchen, big kitchen.
Very big kitchen, has to
Which
be a
is
big
really
kitchen,
nice.
yeah. Let's start our tour here. George, come on, everyone.
You want me to come over?
No, I'm talking to the other George. Okay, guys, Donna, George, come on. It's like we're in a field trip. You don't have to take water or anything like that, okay? Please join me here, okay?
Well, the big dishes.
Here, we're walking on our field trip in the kitchen. Okay. This is a small kitchen, okay? This is the community kitchen of Ner Tamid, okay? We have two kitchens, okay? Here's one kitchen. Hold on a second. What? Yeah, well, but you,
Been in these.
okay, so let him in. No talking now, okay? So we could go through this. So this is the community kitchen, okay? The community kitchen is only dairy, okay? But we also, the standard of kashrut that we have is a little bit more relaxed than the community and than the catering kitchen, okay? It's meant more for kiddush luncheons and small meals, and community members could also bring things that they make at their homes under the guidelines of the rabbi, and basically, which is similar to what I've been talking about. So people could do things at their homes after they speak to me, and we sort of like, come to an agreement on how that is done. Okay.
Can you
Uh,
keep libation in here?
Keep what?
Libation, alcohol.
Yeah, it's right here. So that's.
Yeah.
I know. that's why-
Yeah. Alcohol. Yeah. Well, we talked about alcohol. Okay, so I just wanted you to see, but I want you to see this sign here. Okay, read the sign, George.
For the rabbi, the community kitchen is not to be used at the same time as the catering kitchen. Thank you.
Okay, so only today, for your sake, if this door is closed and locked, you can open the catering kitchen and vice versa. Okay, you're not supposed to have both kitchens because you are not. What we are not allowed to do is move things from one kitchen to the other, because this is a more relaxed policy. So you can't have things from here going over there. You can sometimes bring things the other way around, but we don't want to confuse people at all. Okay, and outside here we have a okay, and here we have a grill. Okay, which we see, and this is like a meat grill. So we sometimes, we barbecue for the whole community. So this is also kosher, and that's part of the catering kitchen. It's not part of the community kitchen.
Could you put vegetables on it?
Yeah, you could. Yes. Yeah.
In this kitchen here.
Yeah.
It can't be used at the same time as the catering.
Yeah.
We have a lot of events here where it's catered and the food is made in here, but sisterhood or whoever brings homemade, or
Yeah.
bought cookies, things for desserts. And we're preparing that at the same time that things are being prepared.
But
for
they're not
whatever
mixed.
the event is.
Very
Just setting it out.
Well, we're setting it out, but
For the same
what does that
event?
mean? Yes, for the same event.
That's not supposed to happen. Okay, let's go into the main kitchen. Okay. Okay. I see the people on Zoom. We haven't lost you yet. So here we have like marked, okay, we have like like big sinks, and we have this blue Okay, this blue marking means it's dairy. Okay, dairy. Okay, so that's what it means. And here, and now here we are at the Holy of Holies, as they say. Okay, so here we have now here's another here. Everyone come inside, please. And you see there is a meat room for all the utensils, and there's a dairy room for all the utensils. Okay, two separate rooms, and they must be locked. One of them has to be locked. You cannot have both of them open. Okay, I'm the rabbi, so I told George to open them today so we could see both of them. Okay, but they would have all the dishes that you need to have would be here, pots and pans and plates, so we can have like a whole catered event. It's all here, as you could see very nicely. And then if you move to the dairy one, so you have the same thing. You have pots and pans and you have glass dishes. Okay, but it's separate glass dishes. You cannot use unlike a Sephardi home. We follow the more strict tradition.
Do we have separate pictures?
Yeah, we have everything separate because even if you don't need to, because what happens is, if like someone would now, use and put something dairy on it, maybe serve milk in it. You don't know what people serve in it, right? You can serve whatever you want because once it's dairy, it's dairy. So we do use the kitchen here. So for example, here, okay, these are stovetops. The stovetops are used for dairy and not at the same time, okay, but you don't have to have like a separate stove top. And here we have like a grilling area and ovens, etc. So you are able to use them at the same time. Now, part of what I wanted to talk to you today is about how do you kosher all this stuff. Okay, so I will try to okay. So I wanna read from here because koshering a kitchen, okay, it is a daunting task to transform a non-kosher kitchen into a kosher one. Yet, while the process is labor intensive, each individual step is actually rather straightforward. The goal is simply to remove all non-kosher food and food residue. The information given below covers both the process of making a kitchen kosher and also how to proceed when mistakes occur. So, first of all, dishes, utensils, pots, pans, and other items must be cleaned thoroughly and then left unused for at least 24 hours before koshering them. Okay, so and that because of what I explained before of like tam nifgam, that after 24 hours, anything that is left in a pot or a pan or a flatware or anything like that, okay, becomes bad, becomes like a bad taste. And then if it gets cooked by mistake, it's not considered like you made the dish any better. And because you didn't make it any better, so it doesn't make it treif. You can eat it even if it got mixed in that sense. So that's why you have that rule of waiting 24 hours. There is one well-known custom is to bury flatware, which needs to be koshered in the ground for a period of at least 24 hours. Okay, this practice has its source in the requirement for thorough cleansing before koshering. And as campers know, the gritty nature of dirt makes for a useful scouting agent. But although putting flatware into the ground or into a flower pot is an acceptable method of preparing the utensil for being made kosher, it is not in itself a valid method of koshering the flatware. Okay, so there's also a custom in some communities, more in the Orthodox world, of taking new pots, pans, and dishes and other utensils that you buy to be immersed in a mikveh, a ritual bath, or in the ocean before use. The Committee on Jewish Law and Standards, the CJLS, or the Conservative Movement, has ruled that this is not necessarily. Should one choose to do such an immersion, a blessing is not required. It depends really on what kind of dishes. Some people say that on glass dishes, when you dip them in the mikveh to make them usable in a kosher kitchen, you don't say a blessing, but for pots and pans, you do say a blessing. So it's like it varies on if it's like biblical law that you have to do it or not, and some people say you don't even have to do it at all. The concept is like you're sort of like converting that dish that it was like you bought it in the store and now you want to use it in a Jewish kitchen, so you have to dip it as well. This past Sunday, I actually went to Redondo Beach and with a new grill that I bought. So I took the grill, stacks, and I put it in the ocean and did a blessing, and now I have a kosher grill. No, I think like there were a lot of other funny people on the beach.
Where'd you put it?
What?
Where did you put it in the ocean?
The grids.
Oh, the grids.
Grids on the grill, yeah. Okay, koshering dishes. Perel and other glass dishes can be koshered by running them through a full cycle in the dishwasher, like was mentioned before by Eileen, and then heat drying them. Okay. Stoneware, earthware, and non-translucent china cannot be koshered. Okay. Anything that's a stone made, clay, etc., cannot be koshered. And hard heat-resistant plastic, such as melamine, may be koshered after thorough cleansing by boiling. Okay, this may be accomplished either by dipping the dish in boiling water or by pouring boiling water on the dish. Okay, so there's like a whole concept of how do you kosher something is like the way it absorbs is the way it needs to leave out. So if like a particle is absorbed by cooking into a pot, the way that I would get it out is also by boiling. Okay, so so that's why we kosher sometimes, and we take like a silverware, okay, and we put it like in boiling water because it was because the way it came into it was also like by boiling, by eating with something that was boiling. Okay, so that's why we dip things in boiling water, but some things like glass do not absorb, as we said, so they don't have to be put in boiling water. They could just be rinsed in a dishwasher, or even some people say not even in the dishwasher. You just rinse it and it makes it kosher. Okay, so there's different categories for everything. Pots and pans, how do you kosher them? Pots used for stovetop cooking may be koshered by being thoroughly scrubbed, then degreased and cleaned. Okay, it's still not kosher. If the utensil has a removable handle, it must be removed, cleaned, and koshered separately. And then the pot should then be immersed completely in boiling water. And pots that are too large to be immersed may be filled to the top with water, which is then brought to a boil, and a heated stone or a heated piece of metal is then dropped into the pot so that the boiling water overflows the edge of the pot. It's sort of like also koshers the sides of the pot. Have you ever seen that? Yeah. Okay, so that's how you like see that that's done in that way.
I've seen it.
Yeah. In terms of flatware, okay, one-piece flatware may be koshered by being thoroughly scrubbed, degreased, and cleaned, then completely immersed in boiling water. But you could put it like in a mesh net, such as a lingerie bag, may be used for immersing the utensils. Okay, and two-piece flatware with non-porous handles, handles made of metal or plastic may be kosher by cleaning all the cervices with a wire brush, and then by proceeding according to the rules above. For knives with wooden handles, the process is a little bit more complex. If the handles could be detached, however, they should be removed, cleaned, and koshered by boiling. If the handle cannot be detached, but is joined tightly enough that no particles can penetrate, the knife may be koshered, okay? So if it's tight, and some of the knives are made in that way, that it cannot penetrate and to be done like that. Glassware may be koshered by being cleaned thoroughly. And care must be taken, however, to brush clean the inside of any designs engraved in the glass. The glassware must then be run through the dishwasher on the regular cycle and then heat dried. Again, some people say you just have to wash it. An alternative to this method, which is the Ashkenazi way, which is a very strict way, is to soak the glassware in a tub for 72 hours, changing the water after 24 and 48 hours. That's very expensive and serious, but some Ashkenazis do that as well. How do you kosher a sink, a stovetop, a countertop, and a tabletop? Okay, so sinks are a special challenge in a kosher home. Most sinks, unless they are made of metal, cannot be koshered. Therefore, rubber or plastic sink liners or basins should always be used when dishes are washed or placed in the sink. An in-sink garbage disposal unit will often make it practical to consider the sink non-kosher space, thus allowing the use of the disposal unit for meat and dairy foods alike. So that could be done. If a sink is metal, however, it may be koshered by being cleaned thoroughly with appropriate cleansers, including the lip around the edge of the sink where foods tend to accumulate, and in the seam areas around the drain. Boiling water is then poured all over all surfaces and directly into garbage disposal and drain. Again, I must say he's taken a much more strict approach than what most conservative rabbis would do. And he goes into a formica, and similar kinds of countertops may be koshered by being scored with appropriate cleansers, paying careful attention to seams. The counter must then be left unused for at least 24 hours, whereupon boiling water must be poured over the surfaces. Raw wood or butcher block surfaces must be sanded to be made usable in a kosher kitchen. I wouldn't advise doing that. Then after 24 hours have passed, boiling water must be poured over the surface. Tabletops made of fine finished woods must be cleaned with appropriate wood cleaners and then washed. It is important to note, however, that the water poured onto the sink or countertop must come directly from the kettle or pot in which the water was boiled. This procedure is called irui mikli rishon, pouring hot water from the first vessel, the vessel in which the water was first boiled. Okay, so that's another principle which is important, that when you pour it directly from the kettle that with the water boiled, and it has to be very boiling. So you would pour it on here, and that after you clean it, and then that would make it kosher. In terms of the oven, okay, you can't just pour boiling water on it. You have to burn it with a torch. Okay, these things have to be thoroughly cleaned. It's a very messy process to do, but it's possible. And then you take like a torch, and then you go over all of it, and you sort of like until it gets like the flame gets very red on that metal, and that's when it becomes kosher. And some people even put it in boiling water, although you don't have to do that. And for the oven as well, if it has a self-cleaning mode, you would clean it very well. And in a self-cleaning mode, you would just like do it for until it's clean, or if not, you would do it for like an hour or 2 hours on the highest temperature. And then the racks inside, some people say you clean them very well. Some people say because things spill on them, you also have to torch them. Okay, and some people say no, it's enough to put them in the oven. and let them boil with the self-cleaning as well. Depends on the manufacturer.
Yeah, self in the oven, that temperature. Really up there.
Yeah, and then some people say don't put the wraps.
Yeah.
In the
I
oven,
learned that's a hard.
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
The first time I ran it, I had racks in there when they were done,
They were done.
They were done.
They was
Yeah.
veins or something.
air filter, air vents in the kitchen and their particles, so it's.
Yeah, there's a lot of grease and stuff like that, so you have to clean them. You have to clean them, you don't, there's no way to kosher them, but there's also, it's not a problem. You don't, there's no reason that you don't eat from them, right? Okay, so that's okay, as well.
Anybody who actually does all
What?
Yes,
Oh, kosher.
I do.
We-
I have
we-
a kitchen kosher
we-
once.
We did this year, we do this every year for Passover, we kosher, when you kosher things for Passover, you regard everything as like non-kosher. So you go through the whole process, everything I'm reading, we do it here every year. I did it this year in my house, thank God I had my daughter with me, so she did it. I worked it very hard. She did that, yeah, right, no, that was the other daughter.
Oh, okay.
The one from Israel.
Nothing is ever said-
I flew her in here, so I think you have to pay for your flight. Yeah,
Nothing is ever said about using chemicals such as bleach or sodium hydroxide or other things that really. An acid, clean
Yeah.
stuff up.
it cleans stuff up and it makes it kosher, yes, as well, because it brings that bad taste that that you can't use, as well.
Just gonna answer, our family is very mixed, and we have Catholics, and we have Jews, and we have Orthodox, and we have conservative, more reform, but sorry, but for a get together, there's actually a flamethrower and the whole kosher process.
Yeah, those things, very interesting. Yeah, so next week we'll finish it up, but I wanted you to see the kitchen. The last thing I wanted you to see is the refrigerators, okay? So we have like a meat side and then a dairy side. Okay, see this? Okay. And then we also have the freezer, so we have meat, on the then we have like meat on this side and dairy on that side. It doesn't matter, it could be on the same side, but when it's cold. And let's say something now here, if there's like a piece of meat would touch the piece of a cheese, okay, it's cold. You could eat them afterwards, not together. Okay, you would separate them, maybe you have to clean it a little bit or something of that sort. Some people would say even scrub off like the top part of the cheese or the salami that touched it, okay? But then it's still kosher, you can still eat it if you make mistakes like that. If you make very serious mistakes, we put you in the freezer. And that's to avoid. Yeah,
You got
Right.
kosher in there.
yeah.
There was a synagogue who had a quick answer to this kosher in the kitchen. They ate only dairy and all.
Yeah, some people do that.
They went out and ate whatever they wanted, and I couldn't tell you if they kept kosher when they were out.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think we'll talk about that next week. I think we will finish next week by just going over all the other parts that we didn't discuss today. And that's